You're listening to the Trailblazers Podcast, episode 81 with Ericka Dotson.
You're listening to the Trailblazers Podcast, where we will explore the stories of successful Black professionals. Join us as we highlight the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished trailblazers to help provide the know-how, confidence, and motivation you need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen Hart.
What's good, Blazer Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Trailblazers Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Hart. Our featured guest for today is Ericka Dotson. She is the co-founder and creative director of Indique Hair. And this fascinating woman has a great deal of experience in creating hair pieces and designing different looks. And her innovative style has been sought after in numerous fashion shoots and runways. And today, she's the creative force behind her brand. I really enjoyed this conversation. We talked about quite a bit. We touched on her genesis story and what got her into hair extensions in the first place. We touched on some of her challenges growing a business over the past decade into now what has become a multi-million-dollar brand. And we touched on leadership, marketing, and a ton more. And so for all our entrepreneurs, Ericka has this pretty dope story that will leave you inspired and hopefully ready to take action on blazing your own trail, right? So before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to give a shout out to G. Cole. Greg, I saw your super cool review over on Apple Podcasts, and I wanted to share it with our Blazer Nation here. It reads, I started listening late last year and fell off due to being busy. I'm finally back and very grateful for this forum that enlightens and informs. I'm now binge listening. I know my road trips aren't such a drag. Keep up the great work, Stephen. This podcast is very necessary. Listen, guys, reviews like that give podcasters life. I know I've said this several times before, but we often don't know who's downloading and listening to these episodes. I see the stats all the time of thousands of downloads in all these countries. But truth be told, I know a tiny fraction of the people behind those numbers. So I deeply, deeply value these reviews. They let me know that you're loving the content. Let me know, episodes that impacted you in a positive way. And like Greg, I'm also a podcast listener, and I find that I'll binge listen to some of my favorite shows too. So I can absolutely relate to that experience. And happy to have you back, brethren. Guys, do me a solid. If you've not yet done so, hop on over to Apple Podcasts if you're on an iPhone. Go over and click on that search icon and search trailblazers.fm like you're looking for the podcast for the very first time. You're going to want to click on the cover and select the reviews tab. And there you can leave us a quick 5-star review and help us to improve our awareness of the Trailblazers movement within organic search on Apple Podcasts. All that said, let's go ahead and get set to dive into today's conversation with today's featured Trailblazer, Ericka Dotson. Hope you enjoy. Ericka, welcome and thanks for being our featured Trailblazer today.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm happy that all of the Trailblazers are listening in.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to talk with you today. I have so much respect and admiration for your brand, and what you've poured your heart into to create over this past decade, and just excited to share your story with our community. You're a mom who's running a multi-million-dollar business, and your brand is now a go-to, which is pretty crazy for celebrity icons. I wanted to start off by asking you, what's keeping you grounded today?
Oh, wow. So family and a really solid foundation of love keeps me grounded. These are reminders that always show me just how beautiful this life that we have, the privilege to experience, truly is.
Yes.
It literally humbles me every waking day. And it's, and I'm not doing it alone. It's such an amazing team that I'm surrounded with that, just really put their heart and soul into everything. So with the team, and then on the personal side, my family and friends, it's just, really an amazing time for me.
So you sound like you're a lady who lives out your gratitude.
Oh, yes.
That's
definitely.
Awesome. I love that. Well, we're going to talk about that team here in a few minutes, but I wanted to understand, a little bit about what got you into the hair extensions business in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I was dying. Literally, like, just to be honest with you. So I was in the corporate arena working at a tower site co-location company. So I was responsible for closing deals with the cellular companies. And, I don't know if you see these towers on the highway
Yes.
with the blinking lights. So it had nothing to do with beauty, hair, nothing fabulous at all. And so I would handle the negotiations, the contracts, from start to finish. And like I said, it was just killing me. I was like, there has to be something else out there for me. I don't know if I can continue to do this for the next 20 years. So I thought about, what I really liked. I always loved beauty and fashion. And I was like, you know what, maybe I can just enroll in cosmetology school. My aunts and a couple of uncles were actually barbers and stylists. Even my grandmother was a hairstylist at one time. And so I guess it's sort of in my blood. So I gave it a go. I did a part-time situation where I spoke with the enrollment officer at the school. And I said, okay, I have a full-time job. I'm a single mom. How can we work this out? I want to get through this quickly. And she said, well, you can clock in whenever you want. So that was like a plus for me.
Wow.
So I would literally clock in during my lunch hour and then rush back to work. And then I would go to school after work. So I did this. It took me about 1.5 years to get out.
Wow.
And so when I did that, I was just so inspired. I was so intrigued. I was probably one of the only people who were really into the books. And, because a lot of people are in cosmetology school, their parents throw them in there. It's just something just to do on the side and they're not really into it. But I was really into it. And I'd gone to a couple of hair shows with the school and I noticed that people were starting to do hair extensions, but it really wasn't very prevalent. Like it was one of those things people didn't really want to talk about it. People wouldn't tell you, oh, I'm wearing hair extensions. It was one of those taboo things that, you just kind of kept it quiet and pretended as if it were all yours. So I found it to be very interesting. And it wasn't something that you learned in cosmetology school, because when you're in cosmetology school, they only teach you what you need to know to pass the actual exams for the state board. And state board does not have hair extensions. Now, they might have it now, but I know then, this was about, 12, 13 years ago, that did not exist. So I ended up finishing cosmetology school and I decided that I wanted to open up my own hair extension studio.
Wow.
I didn't do anything the traditional way. So everyone from my instructors to the owner of the school, they were saying, oh, you're crazy. What are you doing?
So you wanted to do this coming right out?
Yeah,
Wow.
That's what I did. And so they said, really as a student just graduating from cosmetology school, you really need to just work at a salon. You'll probably have to do commission because you don't have any clients to pay booth rent. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to do that. I'm going to try to figure this out and I'm just going to, pray about it and have faith and just see what happens. What have I got to lose? I'm not doing anything now. I don't have any clients now. So let's just see how this works, this way of doing it. So I wanted to be this is in Austin, Texas, where I was living. And so I wanted to be in a really chic area of town. And, when you want to do that, you have to pay the fees for rent. It's pretty high. So I said, you know what? All I really need is, even if it's like an office where I can get the zoning for a little salon suite and I need running water in the space. That's all I need. And so I started searching online in the news, then it wasn't, I think Craigslist just came out maybe, so it wasn't the availability that we have now for spaces. We didn't have that then.
Right.
So it was tough. And so I found this spot and it was in a house and they had it split up into different offices. And it was like about a 400 square foot office that had running water in it. I was like, this is it. And so I ended up getting my, little money together. Didn't have a lot. I found like a used basin, how the stylists, we need like the basin, the bowl for washing hair. I painted the walls. I did it all myself, decorated it really lovely. And I basically I found like a local magazine, I had that my brother was working with. And I asked him, I begged him, I said, can I get it like a small ad in your magazine? Hopefully, maybe I could do some beauty editor writing for you, that type of thing. He's like, really? You're not a writer. I was like, look, I need, I need some ad space. I was like, let me just give it a try. Everything's let's give it a try. You know what I'm saying? I'm fearless. I want to see what I can do. I haven't, no one's telling me what to do. There's no book on this. So I figured, let me just, if there's an opportunity, I'm going to go for it. As an entrepreneur,
right.
that's what you do. You know what I'm saying? So sure enough, I was able to get a nice little ad together. I, do a little bit of, I'm not like a graphic designer to say the least, but I can get around. I can move around, right? So put something together and, for the first couple of weeks, I had no clients, but then I had one client and that one client told another. Then she told two people and I ended up getting a lot of clients. So during that process, I was running into a lot of hair that was very unruly, like it started matting and shedding. And it was an issue because, I wanted to always do my best and offer like the best service. So my service was great. The install was great, but the hair was lacking the integrity that I could stand by. So I did a little bit of research on what type of hair they used in Hollywood. I was like, okay, this hair moves and it flows. At the time, really the only person you could think of that might be wearing hair extensions, Beyonce, Janet Jackson.
So was it a case that it was very expensive?
Not that, expensive, and I'll get to that. So expensive in comparison to what was on the market in the local beauty supply stores. And that's like another part of the story. But the hair that I wanted was very different because I wanted natural human hair, like from the head of a human, real. That's what we sell. So I needed to figure out where I could get this quality hair. I knew about it. I read about it. There was a forum that was actually called Black Hair Media. So how forums were really hot then?
Yes.
It was like nothing to it, no, it was not user friendly. It looked crazy, very wordy. Everyone was like very, incognito. You had no idea who you were talking to. We had all these different handles. But anyway, I would basically be a lurk on these groups just to figure out like what was going on in the market. And myself, along with a handful of other women, were also searching too. And the group started to grow into hundreds of women. So it was almost like an underground community of women looking for this type of hair that didn't shed, didn't matte. You could color it. You could wear different styles. And again, it's not that, I think what was happening is women were starting to lead very hectic lives, our lifestyles, you're a mother, you're maybe in school, you've got like 2 jobs. You also need to be presentable. We were still wearing relaxers in our hair. I mean, we still do, but that was more prevalent than the natural hair that we're wearing, our beautiful natural hair that we're wearing now. So it was a time of like people were just grasping for answers. Like women were looking for a way to maintain a style easily and still also have like a life, you know what I'm saying? Because, it can become very difficult, just being a woman in general, you have to do all these things and look great at the same time. So that's kind of what it boiled down to. So during that process, I ended up finding a company in California that all of the stylists who did hair for celebrities or on set in movies, they went to this company. And I started ordering from them and I was very pleased with the product. And even I found that just let alone the hair that I provided to my clients, that helped spread the word because people would see the client's hair move and the way that it was cut and it didn't look like anything else. So there's who did your hair,
Yeah.
So it was a combination of technique and then the actual hair itself. So what I ran into, the issue with one, they're in California, so obviously it had to be shipped to Austin.
Right.
2, I had to schedule 2 appointments. So one appointment was the consultation to figure out exactly what type of hair they needed to order, right? So I had to sit down with them, they definitely didn't know what to order. Like no one knew anything about this product. So they were looking to me for all of the answers. And so there's 2 appointments I would have to schedule. I still have my regular job. So I was running from the office. Hustle. Yeah. My 9 to 5 to my side hustle in the evenings. I was killing myself. So it's like, okay, this 2 appointment thing has got to stop. I need to search for my own hair that I can have at my location. So when they come in, they choose the hair and then I install it right away. So that was my next journey, just to figure out how to get this hair in a larger quantity, but also at a great price. So getting down to the price of the hair. The price of the hair was probably 4 times more than what they were accustomed to paying.
Wow.
So what was prevalent at the time and what is still prevalent are beauty supply stores normally owned by Koreans. And they have all of the black hair products, like the wet line products, but then they also have racks and racks of, you have synthetic hair, you've got all the different textures and colors, but none of the hair was real human hair. So it's going to run you anywhere from, you could get braiding hair for $2 a pack, all the way up. Like the most expensive hair might cost you around that time, like $60 was a lot to pay. And that was like a ridiculous amount to pay for hair.
And it wouldn't last as long, right?
It wouldn't last as long. So the average price that most people would pay for hair would be like, $35 to $40 a pack. And you might need a couple of packs of hair. So our hair, and I'm kind of skipping, but maybe want to say premium quality cuticle intact virgin Remy hair, which is what we retail, was going to run you at that time anywhere from about $90, and it could go all the way up to like $150 to $175 for really long hair.
Wow.
So, and you would need more than one piece of hair.
Right.
So it was a serious purchase. Once again, most of my clients who were diving into this basically and trusting in me to purchase this hair and, have it last for as long as I said, they were taking a chance and they were only going by my word because they had never seen no friends or family was wearing the hair. I was the only person, maybe who they had seen or maybe the person who referred them, right? So I wanted to make sure that whatever I purchased was quality. So I went online and found a couple of vendors, and it wasn't the technology that we have now where, it's very simple to communicate overseas. And so it was a huge language barrier, time barrier. Even trying to send someone money, I was like, I'm ready to send you money. They wouldn't respond.
Wow.
One time I received hair. It was really scary. It had like nits and Lysol in it. I was like, oh God, I can't do this. I was like, I'm about to give up. The day that I was about to give up, I received a call from my business partner, existing business partner now, Christian Jelani. And he said, hey, he's like, I'm returning, your response. And I was like, oh, wow. I was about to give up.
At this time, this is somebody you don't know, right?
Right, exactly. He's like, what do you need? And I was like, I just need samples. And he was like, okay, I'll send you some. He sent it. I received it in 2 days. He was so generous. He sent me enough to provide like for a full install and even maybe one more. And I was like, wow, this is a really great guy just from the jump. I was like, wow, who does that? And the hair, it was beautiful. It reminded me of the hair that I had been ordering. So I was like, okay, I think I found my source. So, we chatted over, the next couple of weeks. And it's funny, I was working on a website for myself because I said, and this was only out of convenience. I wasn't trying to do anything huge, no national brand, just local Ericka Dotson in Austin, Texas, here for her local clients. So I thought that, my clients, they already have these really busy lives. So wouldn't it be nice if they could go onto my website, order their hair ahead of time and pay for it then, and then they could secure their appointment. So I needed to make sure that I had images of the hair, and maybe even it would be better if I had images of models wearing the hair. So I didn't have the money. To purchase all of that hair from Christian, pay models, pay a photographer, makeup artist, and all of that. So I checked out Christian's site and it was horrible. So I said, you know what? I was like, how about we do this? I said, I need pictures and I'm telling you that you need pictures, right? I said, so how about if you send me hair? And at the time I was also working with makeup artists and a photographer on a portfolio because I was also doing editorial makeup. I mean, it took me to Fashion Week in New York City and all sorts of things. So I was also doing that on the side as well, just trying to get my credentials up.
Awareness and credibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So important. Yeah. And so, he thought about it. He's like, you know what? I guess he thought about it more. He said, can we meet up? And I was like, what's going on? He's like, well, I'm looking to really get a brand out in the United States. And he's like, it seems like you might have, some knowledge in marketing. And so we got together when I had gone to New York for Fashion Week to work Fashion Week, and we hooked up. And literally at that moment, when we had that meeting, he said, the Bronner Brothers hair show is going to be in Atlanta in August. And this was the year 2007. He said, do you think that we could pull this together, like pull this brand together within a month? And I was like, absolutely. So we got together. We've never lived in the same city either. So it was a lot of talking on the phone, back and forth, emails back and forth. We were working with design firm and Cameron Smith, who has been with us from the very beginning, who's still with us now, was helping us with the packaging, the logos, all of that. And we pulled it together. And the next thing you know, I've got family and friends helping me work at the Bronner Brothers booth in Atlanta. Yeah, and I had a photo shoot prior to that. We didn't have a lot of money for marketing, but we pulled it together. And I had already been doing photo shoots, so I already had a gist of what to do, how to pull off the looks. And one thing that I noticed that was a huge void in the market is, I had so much trouble finding great hair. There weren't any companies at the time that were even promoting this hair the proper way. Some of the sites that I saw looked really sketchy. There wasn't a phone number where you could even call someone, which you don't want to send your money to anything like that. So, right. And then also there weren't great pictures. What they would do is they would copy and paste pictures from maybe Beyonce's fan page and then place it on their site. And I was like, that's not right. We can't do that. Right. So I told Christian, I said, we've got to put our money into the presentation. It's all about the presentation, So again, it still wasn't a lot of money, not compared to what we put into it now, but it was, it was a lot for a startup. So I had an amazing shoot. I had amazing images. And one thing that I also noticed is that during that time, there weren't a lot of beautiful images of Black women with darker skin. I was like, what is going on here? So I made sure that the models that I chose had darker skin, A lot
of strategy.
Exactly, because that's what I wanted to see. And I knew that I wasn't alone in that. And we did have more, fairer skin models too. But I'm telling you, at that time, it really wasn't any visuals like that. So that also helped us a lot. So we showed up at a Bronner Brothers hair show. I didn't know what in the world I was doing. I'd never worked a booth in my life, but, and then no one knew they're like, what is this? And so we had this 42-inch piece of hair. It was basically it could have been about 6 bundles from 6 different women. But their hair was super, super long. And I'm talking hair that goes like past your knees, at least my knees. I'm 5'5".
Right. Wow.
So what I did, how do we get people to come to our booth? They're looking at us like, what are you doing? What is this? Yes. What is this hair? So I took that piece and flung it out into the
like a
the walkway. Yes, people were going by. And when they touched it, they were like, wow, what? And they put your fingers through that, girl. And I was like, yeah, this is called the showstopper. I was like, this is the type of hair that we sell. Wow. And then I just started running off saying, this hair will last you over a year. You can color it. You can cut it. Here I go sales pitching it. And I'm not a salesperson either, but I believe in the product. Yeah, I'm not a salesperson. No, but I believe in the product. And that's what I needed. Really what pushed me is me wanting to get the point across that this hair was amazing. I wanted them to discover and experience what I was experiencing as a busy mother and, on the job, 2 jobs, that type of thing.
You're connecting with the audience, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just keeping it real, And then also as a stylist, what is really cool is that at the Bronner Brothers Hair Show, that's where stylists go to find out about new products. And at the time, the new products, it wasn't hair. It was hair wet line, things that you put on your hair.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's safe to say that we are the first company to brand and retail and market and all those amazing things, this premium quality Remy cuticle intact hair.
Wow. That's really impressive, Ericka. And you're saying you're not a salesperson. Let me tell you something.
I'm not.
You're maybe not a sleazy salesperson, but you are an amazing salesperson and entrepreneur, because listening to you, talk about and share this story, which is just amazing to me. I hear over and over again, you stepping up to the plate, stepping up to bat and taking a swing, whether you're going to hit or miss. How do you cultivate this belief in yourself to know that you can get that done? In a lot of these cases, you had no experience.
No experience whatsoever. Well, it's basically, if I'm going to put my effort into something, I want to do it 100%.
Yes.
And no one's going to believe in it more than me. At the end of the day, I could talk to someone about it all day long, but it's me. I'm the one who's responsible for this brand, for this idea, for this product.
Yes.
And so I have to believe in myself 110%.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you put a lot of effort into something, you don't want it to be a wasted effort. And especially when you truly, truly believe that it could change someone's life. It sounds superficial, like hair extensions changing someone's life, but hair extensions, it's an emotional like hair is emotional for women.
Right.
And it's sitting on the top of your head and it's the first thing that people see. So I just knew, coming from a consumer's point of view to a stylist's point of view, I, was coming from both worlds. I knew that it would change a stylist's life because she, the same as I, would be able to provide a quality service along with a quality product, and they would tell their friends, and then it would change their lives. And so that's really what I was trying to get across at the show.
It's interesting how word of mouth really became your primary marketing, right? I mean, did you really have to spend much on marketing beyond that?
No, we didn't have any to spend. That's so.
Right.
And so also, with entrepreneurs, oftentimes you get really
scrappy and creative.
I'm talking about scrappy, because you don't really have an option. And at the time, social media did not exist. So imagine that.
Yes.
And I'm imagining, what in the world would I have done if I had social media then? Man, so it was word of mouth. And I knew that it was special because it was happening I was already proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that's how I was able to get my clients. So I was able to speak on it from experience. And that is always that's really what sells. When you hear someone talking about it, it's almost like those YouTube videos, oftentimes you don't want to even hear it from the brand.
Right.
You want to hear it from just a regular woman who's sitting in Idaho somewhere who used the product, and she's speaking from her personal experience.
Were you deliberate in trying to speak to yourself as your target avatar? Like, were you, as a single mom, kind of, at your stage, at your age, were you speaking to other women at the same place in your walk? Was that?
I believe so. Like, looking back,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure that I was.
Wow.
I could only speak on what I had experienced. Right.
You're scratching your own itch, so to say.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. So that's what made it really special. So I didn't go to school for marketing, but I do believe that I do have, a little bit of a gift with that.
Yes, you absolutely do.
But I'm not a salesperson.
We'll agree to disagree.
Okay, all right. And so that's very helpful. But again, it's really just believing in your product.
That's awesome. So, as entrepreneurs, right, every day we have challenges, run into roadblocks on this journey, right?
Right.
As business owners. Love you to maybe get transparent with us, because those listening are hearing all these great accomplishments and accolades, and sometimes they think like you, even though we're talking about what you've done over a decade, someone might think you got lucky, right? Let's talk about maybe one of the most challenging experiences you faced in your business and talk about what you learned through that experience that's made you the better businesswoman that you are today.
Right. Well, there's been lots of challenging experience over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And and this is actually something over the past, as we started building our boutiques, over the past 5 years, what I started noticing is that there's a lot of turnover in retail, especially with non-management staffing or with non-management staff. And, when we started retailing at store level and opening up multiple boutiques, we began to realize that most people don't stay at retail jobs. They just don't. Like one of my very first job was working at a clothing store, and I left within 2 days.
Yes.
I was like, I can't sell these clothes. So
right there we do.
Right. So, and it's normally a stepping stone until someone lands the job that they want, when they get out of college, or, that cushy office job that they've always been dreaming about. So this experience really helped me to understand that no matter what the outcome, we as a brand or company should always put everything into each and every individual on our team, no matter what. I'm just simply grateful that Indique is just a part of their growth, because that job, that very first job that I had in that clothing store, I'll never forget it, but it's taught me things that I use today. I told myself I have to do something that I'm really interested in. I mean, I know it's very simple, but I know that I'm not going to give my all if I don't care about the product. That was something that I learned that was huge for me. So yeah, again, just being grateful, being a part of their growth, whether or not they're with the brand a year down the line or, 3 years down the line. So, and that's just something that comes with retail. Just one of those things.
Now you've grown, fast forward, this brand is so big today, right? What fears do you have that keep you up at night right now?
I can't afford it. I really believe that, living in fear, like fear-based living, is not healthy at all. I believe that, you'll block opportunities that come your way when you live in fear. And I know it sounds cliche, but everything happens for a reason. And over the years, the things that I would consider at that time, something negative or something that just didn't fall through, I'll look back at it now and I'm like, thank God it didn't fall through, Or what I'll do is I'm grateful just for the lesson that I learned or the experience. We're on this planet for experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of them are bad, but I'm telling you, some of them, they're so bad that they take you to the next level real quick,
That is so true.
Yeah. So yeah, I try not to live in fear at all.
So you understand that there's ups and downs, but you're not fearful to walk through the valley when you're in one, and you know you're going to come out the other end.
Yeah, I know I am.
Right. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So let's discuss, maybe how you get things done, right? Because clearly you have a certain mindset of positivity that helps to propel you. Is there any consistent morning rituals that help you to kind of set you up to win every day?
Well, one thing that I'm loving right now, I've mastered making a green tea matcha latte homemade.
Wow.
I have have my, what do you call it? It's I don't do dairy. So I do like the flaxseed milk and, I heat that up, froth it up, mix it with my special mixer. So that's something that I love in the morning. And then I started yoga early this year, which is really, it's just really changed me and helped center me. And so I'll do a couple of those stretches in the morning, and that really helps me get going.
I tell you, you're probably the third consecutive guest I've had that has talked to me about yoga, and I really maybe need to give this
try
thing
it.
a shot.
It's really awesome. At first I was thinking, like, what am I doing?
Yes,
what? But
that's exactly
really
what I asked myself first.
It's awesome.
So we talked about your team right at the beginning of the call, and I wanted to come back to that and ask, how you're able to now attract, nurture, and empower talent within your company.
Oh, yeah. So the beauty industry is an attractive career for many women. And hair retail is truly unique. As I mentioned before, hair is a very emotional product on the consumer side. Therefore, we attract a special individual who's interested in touching women's lives. It's almost like, we have some women that will come into the boutique and they'll sit in there for an hour and you'll find out so many things about them.
Right.
It's very similar to sitting in a stylist chair sometimes, because you're learning about their lifestyles. You're learning about what type of hair works best for them.
Right.
And then you start getting into, I have a wedding coming up, and then, learning about their personal lives. So it's a very interesting job, and it's so nice to empower this type of woman. At Indique, we love to acknowledge their efforts, with nice perks and bonuses. We're also big on cultivating any hidden talents and interests that they might have that are outside of their daily task. I'm a really huge advocate for tapping into people's natural gifts. Like, I love doing that.
Nice.
Because I just know that, when you're working somewhere and you're able to really utilize your gift, it's nothing better than that.
I agree. That's awesome. So you're a creative director of your brand. You haven't let that go yet. How do you get your team on board with some of your crazy visions for new products and campaigns and so on?
And some of them are really crazy to the point where I'm not getting a good response. It's just it's a little quiet. But like most creatives, I have a giant vision board in my head at all times. And sometimes I'll casually throw some ideas out there to the team, see if anything sticks. And if I'm getting that's awesome, I know we're onto something. If I'm getting a kind of, what in the world did she just say? I kind of let it go. But over the years, I've learned to really listen to the initial responses. It's almost like a gut instinct. And if the idea is a winner, I'll just proceed with further details, and then we'll come together. I love for the entire team to really be on board and help cultivate the idea. And then we'll gather up bullet points and proceed with the actual game plan. But another thing that's been really helpful for us, for our team, in the beginning, like I said, we really didn't know how to do this thing, like market hair. There's no book for this. This is a very different product. There's no tags that show the hair. It's not like a Gucci bag, where you see the logo on the bag. So it's very different. So what we do is we have annual planning meetings every year, normally like September, October. And then we plan out an entire year and a half of how we're going to do this thing.
Wow.
And that's been really helpful. And in addition to that, we're able to put our new products in the plan, and then just anything that happens throughout the year. So for me, again, it's like lots of celebrity clientele. We've got Fashion Week. We've got award shows. Those are things that are big events for us because we know that we're going to have a lot of celebs wearing the hair. They're on the red carpet. We want to make sure that we get placement and some awareness during those times. So a lot of our planning is around those types of things.
Wow. It's really interesting. As we're coming into the tail end of our call here, I'd love to maybe allow you to share some advice with our young entrepreneurs, right? On maybe what some of the foundation pieces are that they need to put in place to be able to have a successful startup.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm seeing a lot is that, and I know that it can be very confusing out there for young entrepreneurs because you see people doing all sorts of things. And you're not really sure whether or not they're actually making a profit on it or not, because everything's glossed over and staged, right? So what my advice is to stick with one business idea and make it profitable. I see a lot of individuals out there with 4 or 5 businesses and they're just waiting for something to stick. And I have no idea how they're able to do that. At least I was not able to do. If I didn't put everything into Indique the way that I did, I would not see it flourishing today. And I'm not saying that you can't do multiple things, but I just feel that people are doing, how I say put 100% into it. So it's probably 50% and then another 25% in something else and 20. Yeah. So that's my advice, just based on my experience in the past. And then just another thing that I think is important is, do you truly love the product or service that you're offering? Can you say yes to that? Would you pay double the asking price for it? So at the time, I would have paid double the asking price for this hair.
Right.
right? And can you talk about it until you're blue in the face? That means you're super excited about it. You want to tell everyone. That's how I was. Like, I was just like, I'm not going to be doing your hair probably in about a year or so because I've got this hair retail brand, that type of thing. And I'm talking to my clients about this hair. So if you can say yes to those 3 questions, you're on to something really special. And do something different. I see a lot of people just sort of, again, it's on social media. It's like, okay, so I'm going to have a hair company too, or I'm going to, have an Instagram clothing line. Let's, do something innovative, think about Steve Jobs and just how he's changed the world. So yeah, I think those things are important.
We started off talking with the fact that you didn't know much about marketing, but now you do. Now you have a department. Now you understand what works a little bit better. Are there key principles you'd want to share on how to start really marketing effectively?
Oh, sure. So right now, we all know that social media is like the thing, just online advertisement. So understand social media and online advertisement and how you can utilize it and its tools for your business. That's very important right now.
Yes.
I mean, it's to the point where we have our team basically splitting up the different platforms. So I have Pinterest that I'm studying. We have, Gabrielle might have Facebook that she's studying. And then we have, Joyce working on another platform. That's how much information is to be learned.
Yes.
It is a lot. Now, don't be afraid and don't get scared because it's probably just you by yourself doing this, right? So one good thing is that there's a lot of information on the internet. There's workshops and seminars that are free of charge. Sometimes you'll have to maybe provide your email address, but hey, it's better than providing $150, And, as I mentioned before, they're constantly changing these platforms and they're updating them. So you have to stay on top of it. It's a never ending task that you're just going to have to face. I remember in the beginning, I think it was Twitter. It wasn't in 2007, but it was a few years later that came out. And this publicist, she said, you have to have a Twitter account. I was like, do I have to? I was asking, now you can't even ask, do I have to? Like, you have to.
Right.
It is. So please don't ignore that. Another thing that I found to be very helpful, especially with the retail product, even with the service, you could use an influencer. Influencers are key. Influencers are people who have a huge following on social media that are willing to try your product and or service and give you a shout out. That shout out is worth so much. If you can do that by giving them a free service or free product, that's better than having to pay them $1,500 or even $500, which you may not have.
Yes.
So try to find those local influencers and then just start branching out. Influencers know other influencers. So just go to events and even go to events that don't have anything to do with your product.
Yes.
It's always good to really branch yourself out because you never know who you're going to run into.
And
so
not
these
even
are
just the networking, but, to touch on that, one of the things, I do marketing full-time for a software firm in the science industry. And it's funny how much, I do a good bit of trade shows.
Yeah.
And from an associative standpoint, right, I'm able to see how companies market their software and market their hardware and market other things that have no relation to the things I would market.
Yep.
But I'm able to look at, things that might work.
Exactly.
And bring them into my space. And
no
one would know who those people are, right? So
no, not at all. And I always tell people, just because you're marketing a beauty product,
right?
Look at what tech companies are doing or look at, or maybe a hotel might be doing. You never know. They might be doing something that's really clever as far as a campaign goes.
Yes.
And you could basically take that idea. And I'm not saying take the entire, but it's a little nugget within that idea that you could utilize for yourself.
Right.
So yeah, always keep your ears and your eyes open.
Yeah, borrow what works.
Exactly.
So let's talk about what you see happening in the future of Indique. How will you rise to that next higher height?
The hair industry is growing in leaps and bounds now.
Yes.
And, at the time we were the only company. Now we are one of thousands that are selling this type of hair. Now, again, the type of hair, we definitely still have something that's a premium product because we manufacture it ourselves, right? So the great thing about that is that we'll be releasing new products with our same type of hair, but just on a different type of placement, whether it be wigs or clip-ins or something, new and innovative that's not on the market, like new textures, which are always fun. So I'm really excited about releasing new products. Nice. And then a few years down the line, we plan on opening up more boutiques and then also having small kiosks in cities where we don't have locations at the present time. And it's always good to have brick and mortar in this industry. It's a really great strength because a lot of our competitors, they're just online. And the beauty of our product is that every piece is unique and different. So you really want to go in as a consumer and select your own product by hand.
Love it. Ericka, I could keep talking to you for like another hour, enjoying this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here. But before we wrap up, I wanted to invite you to, this is something we ask all our guests, all our featured guests. I'd love for you to share one action that our listeners should commit to this week that's going to help them to blaze their trail.
Okay, so important. If you have an amazing business name and you have not secured your domain name as of yet, please do that.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
If you have an amazing stunner of a business name in mind, secure it today. It should only cost you less than $20. Maybe even less than that. Sometimes you can get them for $2.99.
And I was just going to give you the
today.
tip. The tip to add to that.
Oh, what's that?
Is not to go directly to, if you're going to use like a GoDaddy. Don't go to GoDaddy directly. Go to Google, type GoDaddy. GoDaddy will always have an ad that appears at the top. If you click on the ad, you can then get the website for the $1.99 or the $2.99.
Ah, great advice.
Aha.
I'm putting that in my notes.
Also, to add to what Ericka just said, not only do you need to get your domain name, but immediately after you get your domain name, make sure you secure your social handles for that domain name immediately.
Exactly.
You want to keep your domain name under 15 characters for that reason, because 15 characters is about where Twitter will tap out.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you secure your domain name and at the same time secure Twitter, secure Facebook, secure Instagram.
Yes,
indeed.
Immediately.
Ericka, I'm so grateful to have had you on.
Oh,
I loved all your wisdom and just love your personality. And so you're now part of our Trailblazer family.
Yay!
And before we let you go, tell us how we can stay connected to you. We'll wrap up for today.
Well, you can check us out at indiquehair.com, and it's spelled INDIQUE hair.com. On Instagram, it's I Love Indique, and Twitter, it's I Love Indique as well. Check us out. Thank you so much.
Ericka Dotson, thank you.
Bye.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Trailblazers podcast. I'll be posting links to all of today's book recommendations and links mentioned on our show notes page at tbpod.com. If today was your first time listening to the Trailblazers podcast, I just want to extend a warm Trailblazers welcome to you. We're so happy to have you here, and we encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button in your favorite podcast app. Go ahead and browse through some of our past episodes to keep the knowledge flowing. If you're a fan of the podcast and today's content, and you're maybe already subscribed to the podcast, please continue to share and invite your friends, your family, your colleagues to listen to an episode that you think might impact them most. We believe that someone listening to these inspiring stories will be moved to make significant changes that will have generational impact for many others, both now and well into the future. Don't miss next week's episode. New episodes are released each and every Monday by about 5 a.m. Eastern. Trailblazers, jump off this podcast today. Go find a way to rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail. Cheers.